Thank you for clicking on this video, friends. This is a debate clip that comes from a recent episode of The Line. I have a link in the description of this video to that entire clip, as well as to the Line channel itself, so that you can follow them and follow their other amazing creators. Remember, every like, share, and comment that you put on the videos on my main channel helps to support the work that I do, and I really appreciate everybody who participates in this community and makes this work possible. So thank you so much for liking and sharing. And if you haven't already followed, what are you waiting for? We've got cute kitties. Kenny, hey, welcome in. You're on the line with Justin and Thinker. How you doing?
Hello, folks. I'm doing well. Thank you.
It's good to hear from you.
Sorry?
So it's good to hear from you. So it sounds like you might be agreeing with this. Your answer was to whether or not the Bible God is evil was yes.
Incredibly evil. Evil beyond conception. I've been watching atheist shows for at least a year now, maybe creeping on 2 years. And I've seen a lot of Matt. I've seen a lot of the ACA. Lately, I've been watching a lot of The Line with various hosts, including you two. And I just wanted to get in early so that I could put ideas out there that I haven't heard anyone talk about.
Sure.
My voice is not good. Sorry.
It's all right. Although
I've got sinus drippage.
That happens. Your voice sounds okay, but you're real close to your microphone. I can hear the microphone popping a little bit. If you could just pull it back a little bit, that might help.
Okay, how is this?
Good.
I've put you on speaker. I think that works.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, here's my position regarding all gods that have been described that I know of in my life. And my life has been long, and I'm 72 years old now. For a while, I was a recovering Methodist. But now I have chucked all of Christianity overboard and let it sink to the bottom of the ocean. And partly that's due to having listened to many of these shows and listening to the pathetic arguments that Christians put up for their God, not realizing that it's Swiss cheese at best. And if it doesn't melt first, you can go right through one of the holes. That God is fictitious. The two of you probably know the history of where Yahweh came from, but in case anyone doesn't know, Yahweh was a minor god in the Canaanite pantheon of gods, El being the head god, and Yahweh being the storm and war god. And apparently, from what I've gathered in my studies, the Canaanites and the Hebrews lived side by side. There was no invasion of Canaan from Hebrews from getting out of Egypt and all of that. They lived side by side, but the Canaanites eventually left, and the Hebrews chose Yahweh as their God, which explains why the New Testament is so horrid, Old Testament, sorry, is so horrid and full of violence, and this God telling his people to do horrible things. A normal person these days has better morals than the God of the Old Testament. And I would like to debate that with any Christian that will. I hate the apologists, but I would debate an apologist on that because there's so much textual evidence. So, no,
yeah, I mean,
the Christian God
we don't disagree with you.
I'm sorry?
So we definitely don't disagree with you.
I didn't think you would, but there's more, as they say on TV. While I disavow allegiance to any God that I've ever heard of, I do have a lot of empirical data that we survive our physical death. In other words, I believe firmly in an afterlife. However,
have we talked about this before, Kenny? You and I?
This is my first call ever to an atheist show.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I decided to take my opportunity now.
That's fine. Now's a great time. So are you probably going to point towards like near-death experience research and things like that? Is that the angle you're taking?
Well, I call the entire group of phenomena death-related anomalous experiences. And NDEs are one example. Another example is after-death communications, which is another field I've studied pretty intensely. And a couple of others are mediumship and reincarnation. And there's evidence to support all these things if you accept qualitative evidence as opposed to laboratory numerical evidence. And I think that the human being needs to be a probe so that we can understand life better than trying to replicate things in a lab where it's artificial. So my argument is...
I don't know if that's always or if that's the only research we have. You're probably familiar with the Aware project number 1 and number 2 that was led by Sam Parnia and his team. The second project
British
ended.
Guy, right?
He was European, but I don't know which nationality he came from. But there was a team of medical professionals were involved, and it wasn't really a laboratory experiment. What they did is they retrofitted hospitals with cards and placards and things like that, so that if somebody reported leaving their body, they would get quizzed as to whether or not they could identify them, and then also they would generally just kind of write down the story, like, okay, you had cardiac arrest. What did you experience? The first Aware project seemed to come up with mostly nothing. The second Aware project had one instance that I think Sam Parnia and the rest of the team are kind of disagreeing on. Sam Parnia seems to be of the same opinion as you, that there might be evidence that there's like a consciousness that lives on past your body. But when I read the paper, the paper didn't really agree with Sam altogether. But that's what happens when you have a team participating in a study. Not everyone's going to agree on the results. But I bring that up to say this. We have done some real live studies in the wild, not just in laboratories, to try to figure out if there's something to it. And I haven't seen one yet that has produced like any results that we could say, yeah, that seems to be the case.
Okay. I don't think that conflicts at all with the things in my head, memory-wise. But the point I want to make is...
Yeah, I kind of interrupted you. Maybe lay out the case and we can engage with it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to, actually. What got my attention initially was near-death experiences. And the first book I read was by a psychologist named Ken Ring that was published in 1980 or so. He was a faculty member at the University of Connecticut, a psychologist, and he had read Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life, which I didn't read for quite a while. But I read Ken Ring's book, and he was using psychological methodology, and that's what my second PhD is in, psychology. So I could understand his methodology, and he presented some pretty strong data. But at the same time, I wasn't convinced. So I came upon another book that was written a couple of years after that. In 82, Michael Sabom, S-A-B-O-M, wrote a book, and he's a cardiologist, and his book concerned operating room NDEs and what's called veridical evidence. That is, he would take the account from people like you just were describing, except it was more systematic. It was an actual scale. He would take those, I'll call them data from experiencers, and compare them with the medical notes, an objective, independent source of information about that patient and that procedure that day. And he had a control group that did not report an NDE, but did go through everything else, like all the patients who did report NDEs. And the control group showed nothing special whatsoever, but the experimental group showed that they were perceiving things that were in the objective, independent medical records. And he had something like 32 cases of that. And building on that, in the last 5 years, maybe a little longer, there have been a book and then a second edition of a book by Dutch researchers, and the book is called The Self Does Not Die. And the second edition has 125 cases of veridical evidence coming from NDEs and related phenomena. The evidence is stacking up. We do survive death. That does not mean that there's a God you can pray to that will intervene in your life and find you a parking space. That's just not the way it is. And in fact, I'm not sure that the thing that's out there is personal in any way. I certainly have no relationship with it. So I can't speak from personal experience because I have none. But I do have the experience of others that have been replicated literally tens of thousands of times. And the thing that's in common is that they survive physical death and they cross over into another plane of existence, I believe a parallel universe, parallel to our own. And I believe that the predicted wormhole from relativity is the passageway from one universe to the other. And people report these tunnels with lights at the end, and the way they report it sounds just like going through a wormhole. And I have actually published this in the 90s. So I think the evidence is there for the afterlife, but when it comes to gods, I'm an atheist concerning any God I've ever heard described. And I'm still taking bids, but no one's calling me and giving me ideas. So there's my case.
Awesome. Let's talk about some of the things. I might ask you a couple questions before we dig into the meat. Do like my pet dog and my pet cats, do their souls live on?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Is this true of all animals?
It appears to be. This is a recent thing on my part, but I've seen evidence in recent years, very recent years, of animals. Well, one was a deer that was hit on the street, on the highway, and it tried to get up and it walked over to the edge and it fell down again. And then you saw a light white mist rising from its body and then heading off camera to the right. And I'm like, I just saw the soul of that deer leave its body. I was stunned, but I saw it.
Okay.
And I've got YouTube videos stacked up to here with humans leaving their bodies on camera. So the evidence is there. Unless you want to say it's a broad conspiracy to put out garbage.
I don't want to dig into whether or not your evidence is good evidence yet. Personally, I don't think the soul of a deer was visible. Probably some other nonsense. That's not important right now. I'm just trying to get an idea because I think there's going to be some logistics that we need to hash out. So how long have the souls of all animals and human beings on Earth been living on past death? Has this been going on since the beginning of life?
Wow. Do you really expect me to know the answer to that?
Well, it's kind of important because, like, we do the same problem with the Bible. Like, for example, there's 2.5 million Israelites that went into the desert, and then they all drank from one rock. It's a preposterous story.
Yeah.
That being said, when we're talking about NDEs, there are logistical questions we actually have to consider. So, do you believe in evolution? I assume you do.
Yes.
Okay. So let's imagine for a second that for I don't know, at least 1 billion years, all the animals and all the living entities that have ever been on the earth, they have died and their souls have lived on. Where are they living?
There is not just a universe, but a multiverse. And this is the latest creation of cutting-edge physics. And people like Brian Greene, who is a string theorist, has written an entire book about multiverse theory. And I believe that the next universe over is where we go, so to speak. I look at the multiverse as like a loaf of bread. Each slice of the bread is a 4-dimensional universe embedded in a 5-dimensional space. And so when we leave this 4-dimensional space, we travel through the wormhole, which is in the 5th-dimensional space, to another 4-dimensional universe on the other side of the wormhole. That's what the data and evidence say.
Right. Okay. So we have alternative universe. I don't think that's what the evidence says, by the way, but I'm not concerned
Did I
with that.
not answer your
So,
question?
no, you did. That's why I'm moving on to the next question. So, I'm trying to clarify that. So, what you're suggesting is that when all these souls die, they go to the alternate universe. Now, this is interesting because, according to most NDE research or like post-death research or psychic mediums or anything like that, these souls seem to be localized here on the Earth still yet, right? So, what that means is, are you saying that the soul has the ability to go back and forth between our current world and this alternative universe? I think he dropped and came back. He'll be back in a second. Must have
You
had
can just
bad
pull him
reception.
back in if you want.
His phone went to an alternative universe. Okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
We're trouble.
What's going on? I don't know where I am.
I think you lost reception. It's okay.
Well, this call just dropped on my phone. I don't know what happened.
It was probably just reception. Don't worry about it. You're back on.
Well, it interrupted something that was going pretty well.
Yeah, I know. We're going to continue it. Don't worry. So, what I was asking was if the souls of all these entities, living entities, go off into an alternative universe, how is it that we're still able to dialogue and commune with them here on the Earth?
Because they can come back through the wormhole.
Okay, so they can just go back and forth to universes once they no longer have a body?
When you're not trapped in a material body, then you're free to explore the 5-dimensional space in which our 4-dimensional world is housed.
So what you're suggesting is like the sci-fi idea of wormholes are real now? I didn't realize that science had approved this theory yet.
Einstein gave us an equation, and years ago I had a friend of mine who was a computer graphics person plot the equation, and lo and behold, it's a drawing of a wormhole. It's in Meissner, Thorne, and Wheeler, General Relativity. I can't tell you the page number. I used to know it. And the drawing is in there, and the equation is in there, and I was able to reproduce the drawing using the equation.
How do souls see?
A great question. A better question is, why do we need eyes when we have a body?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. How do souls see things visually? Because we can only see things because we've got photon receptors. Without photon receptors and without photons, you're not going to be able to see anything. So in the alternative universe, are there photons and photon receptors?
Ooh. Oh, that's a fine question. You do not need eyes when you're out of body. You do not need sensory organs when you're out of body. The reason we need those things when you're in the body is that your soul is blocked off from them by the body. And so to get along in this world, we have to have sensory data, and it can't be direct because we're covered up with matter.
Sorry, can you pull the microphone a couple inches away from your mouth? It's doing the popping again.
I'm sorry.
Right, but what I'm suggesting is that without a way to interact with the world around us, we don't have a way to interact with it. Like you need a vehicle, right? And our vehicle are eyeballs, which are basically photon receptors. So what is your soul using? What's the mechanism that allows a soul to see anything?
Souls, you're asking the question, so I'm going to go there. Souls are composed of something different from matter. That's why they have the properties that they do. String theory tells us that everything in the universe can be broken down into strings, Planck level, tiny strings of energy that come in two forms.
Sorry to interrupt you, Kenny. I've done the string theory bit before. I'm not asking about string theory. I'm asking about a mechanism. Like, what's the mechanism that allows a soul to visually interact with anything?
String theory is part of the answer to your question, if you want to hear it.
All right. Well, let's have it.
Okay. Probably the question you should have asked me previously was, how can something non-physical interact with something physical? Like, why in the world should a soul inhabit a body? How is that possible?
I'm not asking that question. I'm asking specifically, how does something without photon receptors see anything?
Okay. The nature of the soul is that it has an electromagnetic field associated with it. That's the one common physical property with bodies that the soul has. And so, photons, being electromagnetic energy, directly interact with this.
As an electrical engineer, I'm deeply concerned at this new rabbit trail that we're on.
All right.
What data do you have to suggest that souls do anything electromagnetically?
I have seen so many videos of people hunting ghosts.
YouTube videos, gotcha.
Television shows and documentaries and everything else. Not just YouTube videos. There's a whole world of stuff out there that you guys don't examine that would lead you to think more.
I have.
What?
I've researched paranormal all the time. You're probably referring to the EMF detectors?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how EMF detectors work?
Yes.
Okay. You know, there's lots of things that EMF detectors can detect that are going to have electromagnetic force that aren't alive and aren't souls. Like, in fact, you can literally just get it close to certain bodies of water. Like, there's so many things that will trigger an EMF detector. Like, you could walk through the wrong mist and trigger it. These are not actual, like, research devices for souls. These are gimmicks that people sell on the internet to trick people who are gullible enough to believe that souls have some sort of electromagnetic force.
Okay. So you reject my entire idea. That's fine.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I didn't get a degree in the paranormal, but I was an electrical engineer for 20 years. EMF detectors are, they're basically toys if you don't actually have an actual purpose for them. And most people using EMF detectors have no idea what's happening.
You have not been watching what I've been watching.
I've literally used them myself.
Oh, I don't doubt that. Look, my first area was physical chemistry, and my research was theoretical chemical physics. That's
how come
before
EMF
I went into
detectors
psychology
don't
and got a PhD in clinical psychology.
How come EMF detectors don't go off every time a human being is holding one?
Because there's a baseline to be measured first.
Do we have souls? How come it does? How come it doesn't go off when we're holding it because we have souls and we're holding the thing?
Oh God, your soul's EMF
I know. Yeah,
is
these are really easy logistical questions. If an EMF detector can detect souls, and I'm holding it and I have a soul, how come it doesn't go off when I'm holding it?
Why do you interrupt me when I try to answer you?
Because there's a delay. I don't interrupt you while you're answering. I'm interrupting you, and there's a delay. It sounds like I'm interrupting you.
I was answering your question when you started talking again, so I had to stop.
You thought you were answering my question. I didn't hear it. I told you there's a delay. When you start talking, there's about a 1.5 to 2 second delay before I can hear what you say.
Okay. I didn't know that. Oh, what do you want me to say now?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Thinker. Yeah, I'd love to hear you dig into this one.
I just want to know, like, really quickly, what does the soul use for memory, right? Like, if the soul comes back and it wants to, like, visit family or, I don't know, go see a celebrity, like, what does it use for memory?
Fantastic question. Memory is a pretty mysterious thing to psychologists and certainly to philosophers. Memory is an interactive phenomenon between the brain and the soul. The two overlap electromagnetically, and they influence each other bidirectionally by virtue of their electromagnetic fields and the fluctuations thereof. So a fluctuation in the electric field of the soul is going to cause a fluctuation in the electric field in the brain, and that's how the soul and brain communicate with each other. Now, I have forgotten what your original question was.
I mean, if you're dead, right? Your brain is rotting in the ground. It's not communicating with this soul. It's decaying.
No, it's not.
Right. So what does the soul use for memory without this body? Right.
Okay, I was working towards that.
Like, it's kind of similar to the question that Justin asked, as far as like what mechanism does the soul use to see? Right. What does it use to remember where to go? Like, how does it remember people, places?
I'm trying to wait for all the delays to go by. It's a great question. It is not one I can directly answer. I can say that during physical life, memory is something that's handled first by the brain, and apparently, and then by the soul. But it's a cooperative venture between the soul and the brain. This is why you can have brain damage and lose memory, but after you die, you have that memory because you're no longer dependent on an interface that doesn't work right anymore. So there is some way, and I can't tell you this, some way to store memories in a non-physical agent such as a soul. I have no way to know how that works. There's not nearly enough data, and there may not ever be data that would tell us how that works. But I certainly don't know the answer to that question. I just know that memories are retained, and you remember your life once you've left your body. And I believe that to be true even of people with Alzheimer's. I believe they have a retrieval problem, not a storage problem. And so when they're freed from their bodies, their defective bodies, their non-defective souls can remember what was going on when their brains would not let them remember.
So, like, wait, you're saying that the soul can remember, like, but something is wrong with the brain that's stopping them from retrieving these memories because the memories are stored in the soul, but you don't know how or where?
No, the memories have to come through the brain. If you're going to talk, it has to go through the circuits that control your jaw and vocal cords. If you're going to move, it has to control the circuits, the motor cortex, the circuits that let you move. The body has the properties it has because the soul has been deprived of them by entering a physical house, a body. And so the body has to replicate as much as it can what the soul would do on its own. This is why we have restricted visual spectrum, for instance. People who have NDEs report that when they get to the other side of the wormhole, they see colors that they've never seen before. And that makes sense because we have a restricted visual range in terms of frequencies.
So do people on LSD, man.
Sorry?
So do people on LSD.
Yes, and I've written about that.
It doesn't make sense. Like, how are they remembering what they're seeing? How are they even seeing? Right? Like, they've, according to you, that like they've left their body, right? And they're seeing these different colors. And then when they come back to their body, they remember what they've seen when they're away from their brain. And the reason that we have memories is because of our brain, right?
If we were in a body, but the body had no brain, then you'd have no memories and you wouldn't even be alive. The brain is important, but it's not the ultimate.
I want to make sure that we're hearing you correctly. Where are the memories stored?
During life?
Yeah.
They appear to be stored in the cortex.
Okay. And why would we believe that they're stored in the soul?
Because the soul is intimately interlaced with the cortex. The two work together during physical life.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for. How does that actually work, and what's the evidence for it? Because Thinker asked a really good question. I'm not really hearing an answer to it, which is like, if the memories are stored in the brain, I don't understand what the soul is doing here.
Well, both of you are ignoring what I keep repeating, which is that it's a cooperative venture.
That's not an answer to the question. We're asking how. Like, if you asked me, hey, how did Thinker and Justin get on this live stream? I said, it's a cooperative venture. That doesn't answer the question. The how is that we both logged on to a Zoom call and now we're streaming to YouTube.
Okay.
Also, our voices are coming through microphones, and our image is being cast through cameras, right, to you. So, like, we can tell you how. How are these memories being, how is the soul working with the brain to form these memories or store these memories? And I'm interested in what the soul has to do with that while the body is alive, but more interested in understanding how the heck the soul is doing that afterwards.
Yeah, we have a lot more information on your first point than on the second one. We have no information on that second point, in fact.
You don't have information on the first point either, because you've not been able to prove that a soul exists and that it's doing anything with the brain. The brain does what the brain is going to do what the brain does, right? The brain works even without the soul. Right? Like, you've not been able to even prove that that soul is necessary.
It may be necessary. I don't know. Ethics boards won't let you do those kinds of experiments.
So why are you saying you have more evidence for that? You don't.
I have a ton of NDE evidence with veridical perceptions verified by independent, objective sources like doctor's notes from the operating room.
Let me ask you a question. So when a person has surgery and they're given anesthesia that knocks them out, makes them unconscious to the point where they're like one step before death, right? Have you ever had surgery before?
Several times.
Okay. And you've gone under general anesthesia?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any memories while you were asleep?
No, everything was turned off.
Almost like you were dead, like your brain was dead, damn near. I'm sorry, I don't know. Can I cuss on here?
Oh, you can cuss all the fuck you want.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Fucking
so
hell,
like
yeah.
okay. So like your brain, it was like you was damn near dead, right? Like they give you anesthesia to the point to where they turn everything off. Like you're at this unconscious state.
I think if they were running an EEG, can I answer you, please?
I'm trying to explain what I'm asking. Like you were at this point to where you could not dream because your brain was, your receptors, everything was turned off, right? Your
Well, that's how I understand it. Yes.
Okay. And what? So if when a person is under general anesthesia and everything is turned off, similar to how it would be if you were dead, what do you think would have happened? Like, where was your soul then? Was it under anesthesia too? Was it like drunk, high? Did it take a break? Like, where was your soul during anesthesia?
Another great question, Thinker. You've got a load of them.
That's why we call her Thinker.
Oh, well, that makes sense. And she is thinking. You are thinking, Thinker. And you're asking really good questions. In fact, you're asking better questions than my committee did when I defended my dissertation on this topic. So you've earned the label Thinker. And you deserve honesty from me, and I'm giving you nothing but my honest thoughts. I don't understand how the soul works internally when it's separated from the body. No, I don't know. I don't know what kind of evidence could tell me. I don't have any physics to guide me on that point. The other case where the soul and the body are united and you want to know how memory works, I cannot tell you the exact answer to that question either. It's a very difficult system to understand, and you're very right to ask the question, and I wish that I was advanced enough to be able to answer you. But I'm not. I've been working on this since 1991, so a very long time. I've published 4 publications on this topic, and there are still an infinite number of questions I cannot answer. What I'm going for is, what can we answer? Where do we start to try to get reliable information out of these phenomena? And so I have been in stage 1 the whole time I've been working on these problems. Stage 2 would allow me to understand how the soul works internally and what is it exactly on the other side of the wormhole. I have decided not to try to touch those topics because they're too speculative, and I don't have physics to guide me once we leave the wormhole on the other side. I've got no idea what physics is like in another universe. So I have to stick with known and edge physics to explain my ideas. And I'm not smart enough to know exactly how memory works, even if there were no soul and we were just brains. I still wouldn't be able to tell you how memory works in that case. So that's my honest response to your question, which is a great question.
I think, like for me, seems like that would be one of the earlier questions to answer, to even see if it makes sense to even pursue that, right? Because that is something that that would be required for one to even say, like you talked about mediumship, right? And a lot of mediums claim to speak for the deceased relatives of someone who's living. That deceased relative would have to have memory. And so to even validate that claim, I think that should have been like the first thing that you tried to figure out. Like to me, everything else is irrelevant if you can't explain how a soul is thinking or holding memory.
As I've said before, I am guided by physics. Physics is not advanced enough to answer the question that you're asking. I am not advanced enough to answer the question that you're asking. I can only say it's a very legitimate question, and I wish I knew the answer, but I don't.
I get that. I'm just saying I think that would have been, like, that probably should be the first question to start focusing on.
Okay.
Like you said, you've been working on this since like 1991. Like the mechanisms for how a soul would do, right?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying that. Like I think that would probably be the first, right? Like, I mean, you could figure out like that a soul exists, but just because you say like you find evidence that, I don't know, you measure the energy leaving a dead body like the guy did with the, what was it, the 21-day study, 28-day study. Let's say you were able to measure energy leaving a dead person's body. You say, oh, that's the soul. By the way, I saw my grandmother die. There was nothing left her body except for her breath. I was standing right in front of her.
It's in the near IR, so you have to have night cameras.
But you saw a deer soul without night cameras?
No, it was on a security camera fixed on a certain part of the road. There were no people involved. Okay. And it was night.
How do you see something that's immaterial?
With my eyes? I know that's not the answer you're looking for. I don't
we see
know how
things
that
because
works. I can see it.
we see things because photons are. We see things because photons are bouncing off of objects. Some of them get reflected, some of them get absorbed, and they made it into our eyeballs, right? So if something is entirely
as well.
if it's entirely immaterial, photons aren't interacting with it. You can't see it.
Okay, I'll go back and re-explain. The photons are collected by the biological part of you, your eyes, your retinas. Photons are entities in this 4D universe. They are connected to space-time. And this is coming from string theory. They don't have a choice about whether or not they can leave the universe. They have to stay in it, along with all material particles. But the other kind of string is a closed-loop string. Unlike the open-ended strings that make up matter, the closed-loop string is not constrained to remain within this four-dimensional universe, and therefore it can travel through wormholes. And since
We're
the soul
not talking about wormholes, my friend. Just try to focus up here, right? So the question is, if photons, that's the thing that allows our eyeballs to see. Like we're in our physical world, we have eyeballs. We see things because photons are interacting with the world, and then also our eyeballs, right? If something is completely immaterial, that means the photons are not interacting with it, which means we shouldn't be able to see it, even with an infrared camera.
I have seen it so many times.
Well, you didn't see a soul then.
What I've seen.
What you've seen is something that is not a soul. It's clearly something that is either you're imagining it or it's something else. Maybe it is something physical, like a mist, the last breath's mist. Who knows? But it's certainly not a soul. You can't interact with something that's immaterial like that.
Okay, I have tried. I didn't really think I would succeed, but I thought I would give you guys a chance.
I mean, it's been fun.
I've tried. I'm sorry?
It's been fun. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. We're just trying to ask all the basic logistical questions, right?
Well, don't I keep acknowledging that they're good questions?
Yeah, I don't have any complaints. I think you've been a fair conversationalist.
Interlocutor.
Well, yeah, interlocutor does count.
Does count?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is what we're doing, you could be considered an interlocutor. It's just that I usually tend to reserve that for people that we're in heated, intense debates. I feel like what we're doing is having a robust conversation, and that's fine.
Yes, I'm using it in the Socratic sense.
Right. That's fine.
And so it is a calm discussion in the Socratic way.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, in the Agora in ancient Athens, they had these kinds of discussions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
One atomist, Democritus, believed that everything was made of atoms, but that the soul was something special. It was made of very fine atoms, therefore it could overlap.
I know, we're familiar, right?
You guys have studied Greek philosophy?
I've read some of the early works on the soul, like from Plato and Aristotle, but that's not.
So you read Plato.
I don't think it's relevant. I don't think it's relevant to what we're talking about right now. I agree that the ancient Greeks and even the Romans had this belief. In fact, Paul touches on this in the book of Corinthians, but that's not important. So what I'm trying to figure out is, like, it seems like we've got a huge problem that when we examine like the logistics of the soul, we keep finding these things that I think are like defying what we know about physics. And I don't know how we square that round peg.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, well, I think Thinker had a good one with the storage of memories. I don't know how you can store memories with something that's entirely non-physical. What that mechanism is, you need a mechanism for storage. It can't just exist without a mechanism or a location.
And this is a demonstration of why I'm not able to get my points across. When I answered that objection earlier, you have just tossed it away as though I didn't answer it. But
you didn't answer it.
I answered it to the best of my ability.
I'm not asking you if the brain and the soul work in tandem. I'm asking how does it work, right?
Oh, I don't say right because I don't know if that's right or not.
I mean, yeah, I don't. I think I've basically. I only have one question left. But I'll let Thinker join in. Did you have anything you wanted to continue with? I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation.
No, I don't have anything.
So I have a really interesting question because Thinker brought up this stuff about memories, and I think it's really good. I might have actually two questions. So why is it that when our brains are damaged, that we can simply lose memories? Wouldn't we expect that those memories are collected in the soul, especially if you have a real traumatic incident where you actually do have a near-death experience and you left your body? Wouldn't we expect some of those memories to still be retained in the soul for when you came back? Why is it that when this happens, we have cases of amnesia and different things like that? Where are the memories going?
In the case of a brain damaged person,
mm-hmm.
I don't think they get formed, except, well, another great question. This memory thing is difficult. I don't have answers for you. Sorry?
It's just a tough one. I had one more question, and if you don't have an answer for it, that's fine. I just want to get your take. So I've been studying NDEs for quite some time. I think they're really fucking fascinating. They're really cool. I've had family members that reported NDEs. My own mother counts among them. But the one thing I did notice that happens a lot is there are NDEs in all different cultures, and they seem to follow what people believe about the world already. So, for example, you already talked about Plato. Plato tells the myth of air, where air basically had this NDE, and his NDE is an experience of the Greek divine realm, basically, right? And then in Islam, there are people who have NDEs that seem to mirror their own religious view of the world. Why is it that NDEs are different for every culture? Why wouldn't they just all be identical? There's only like one experience. You die, and then you meet the same afterlife that everyone else has.
No, that's not how it works. People do tend to report their culture. Let me know when I can talk.
Well, you didn't answer the question. That's why I reframed it. I'm asking you, why do people in different cultures see phenomenon that is from the culture itself?
Because they're back in the same body that had those beliefs from their culture. And they are limited once they're back in their bodies by the things they've learned from their culture. And they interpret things they saw while out of their bodies in terms of things that are in their culture, because NDEs are ineffable. They are not expressible in normal language. So people go to their cultural myths or whatever and try to couch it into something they know so that they can describe it, because otherwise it's indescribable. So, yes,
but they described it
comes into the process.
But they described it in terms like we've got descriptions of Egyptian deities, right? If there's no God in the afterlife, they shouldn't be experiencing Egyptian deities. Air should not have been experiencing the Greek deities. None of these deities should have been existing in their afterlife if it's merely just souls living on.
And how do you differentiate that from a dream?
That's a fair point. How do
How
I
would you
what?
differentiate this from a dream? If you're saying that they saw something completely different in this other realm, this other universe, that they could not explain, but then they come back to their body, and then their body feeds them a completely different picture based on what their brain already knows. How do you differentiate that from a dream? Then they really don't know what they saw, or if they
Dreams do
actually
not
had an experience.
dreams do not provide veridical evidence.
What?
But that's not your
Dreams,
question, my friend.
If they go to this other realm, right, through this wormhole, when they have this near death experience, and they see a completely different universe, and they don't their brain, well, they don't their brain is back in the other wormhole. I don't know what they're using to see or to store whatever they saw, but they see something that their human brain on earth can't explain or comprehend. Like, there is no words for it. But when their
right?
soul gets back to earth in their human body, you're saying their brain takes that experience and creates an experience using the knowledge that they have acquired here on earth. And that's why everybody's
No,
experience is differently. Well, help me understand your answer to Justin's question, because Justin is asking, why do so many people have very different NDE experiences? For example, a lady said that Biggie Smalls was in hell in a blender getting blended over and over again. Peter was hanging by his balls over fire, looking at the women
Mm-hmm.
with braids in
Tupac.
his hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why do people have different experiences? That was Justin's question, and I understood your answer to be, well, they didn't really have those experiences. Their brain didn't have the information it needed to actually interpret what they saw when they went through the wormhole. So their brain just used what they actually knew, um, using the which is usually their culture. And so if that's the case, then they didn't really have the NDE experience that they said they have. She didn't really see Biggie Smalls in a blender. She saw something else. You see what I'm saying? How do you differentiate that from a dream?
I can't explain any one person's description of their experience.
I'm not asking you to I'm not asking you to explain their experience. Your answer to Justin's question was their brain interprets their NDE using the culture or information that they know.
Right.
So, which means that they didn't really see or experience what the brain told them they saw or experienced.
It means that the story the brain came up with to explain their experience is not identical to the actual experience. It's the actual experience fit into a pre-existing mold that is culturally, at least partially culturally defined.
So that's what I'm saying. How do you, if the brain told a story that didn't actually happen, how do you differentiate that from a dream? That person doesn't really know what happened if the brain told them a different story. That's my point. So that's why I used the example of the lady who had the NDE saying that she saw Biggie Smalls in hell in a blender. So her brain told her that story, but that's not what she really saw.
I hope not.
But how do you differentiate that from her just having a dream? Because her brain doesn't know what she saw when she went through that wormhole, or if she actually went through a wormhole.
Thinker, your question is very good again. And this is the reason why death-related phenomena are what I target in my work. Only when you're dead do you know whether or not you have a soul, because if you don't, you're dead. And if you're dead, but you still think and you still see and you still move around, then you're a soul without a body. This is not hard to understand. And so I've chosen the phenomena that expose themselves to me, the first one being the tunnel, so-called tunnel, which I discovered was the relativistic wormhole. And then I just started following the data wherever it led me. And so my ideas about
I don't think that works. Sorry to interrupt you, Kenny. I've experienced the tunnel 3 times. And I didn't go to any alternative universe. I didn't see any gods. I've had near-death experiences myself, which is why they're so interesting to me. I saw the tunnel, and then it was nothing. I woke up number of minutes later, 10, 12 minutes later, in a different location. There were no memories, there was no experience, but there was definitely a fucking tunnel.
So you never entered the tunnel?
I didn't have the opportunity to. It was a tunnel.
Yeah.
And then black. That's it.
Yeah. So you had a partial NDE.
I was dead.
Yeah, but what you're remembering is only partial.
No, what I'm saying is, if NDEs are evidence of some afterlife, we need something better than people see a tunnel. People see tunnels all the time. In fact, I saw a tunnel. The last time I saw it, I was 22, and I wasn't even near death. I had a really low blood pressure, and I ended up passing out in an elevator. And it was almost the identical experience from when I actually did have heart failure and die. The tunnel,
yeah.
Boop, it happens. It's something that happens when our brain is lacking oxygen, which is why you can not eat for a couple days and then have a similar experience. Like, I was on the wrestling team in high school, and one time I passed out because I was an idiot teenager and I wasn't eating, and very similar experience. Like, these things have explanations other than spirits.
Other than spirits?
Yeah, we've got good data scientifically to suggest that some of this phenomenon is literally just your brain doing what the brain does.
Oh, boy. Well, since I've been reading and writing and researching all of this for 27 years, 35 years, then I don't expect you to have read all the things that I've read, and I don't expect you to have entertained all the questions that I have, and I don't expect you to have a publication record in the field like I do. But I expect a rational person to give another rational person at least half a chance to get his viewpoint stated correctly. And I haven't gotten that chance during this call. I've been interrupted every time I tried to start out answering the question. And so
there's some wild stuff
like
right here.
Here we go again.
I'm used to the Christians crying about persecution. I didn't realize agnostics get persecuted up here.
I don't feel persecuted. I feel that you're ignorant.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, we're the ignorant ones. You couldn't actually explain your position adequately, so we're the ignorant ones.
Like, you've been asking the same questions for 35 years and you still don't have an answer.
I wish I was on Zoom with you.
You'd
enjoy the big grin I've got. No, you don't see me.
What?
I don't think we would. I think it'd be creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm real creepy. Yes. I'm pretty much anything you want to call me.
Great mustache. I already looked you up on the internet. You had a great mustache, but a creepy smile is not what we need right now.
Oh, wow. So we're now to the level of insults?
No, I didn't insult you. I said you had a great mustache. That's a compliment.
You said some other things too.
I said, I think it would be creepy if you were on our Zoom call smiling at us right now.
Thank you.
Because you don't sound like you're smiling. You sound like you're starting to get a little bit irritated, which is a weird time to be smiling at somebody unless it's some sort of like passive aggressive bullshit.
That would be insanity if I thought
we
you
were
could
really
see
nice
me
to him.
smiling.
Like, what's happening?
It is what it is. What are you going to do?
Just tag team interruptions.
He's fulfilling Isaiah 53 right now.
What? I'm not fulfilling anything.
We're just fucking with you. Hey, Kenny, thanks for calling in. I think it was a fun conversation. But I think we've got to the.
You guys are the dishonest ones. You guys,
we're the dishonest ones.
To protect.
Yeah, we're the ones. We're the ones asking questions that aren't getting answers.
You're talking over me.
Sound like a Christian.
You're interrupting me. I give you answers and you reject them.
You gotta have ears. Hey,
and now we're both talking at the same time over and over.
But you gotta have ears to hear.
And now neither of us are going to quit talking, and so we're going to keep blotting each other out.
I mean, to be fair, like to you, like if we talk over you, I don't know exactly how the audio system works, but I'm pretty sure if we both talk at the same time, my mic will probably be louder than yours. I can actually turn it up though, just to make sure that that is the case. I'm not sure if that's going to be a productive route, but what I'm saying here, Kenny, is like I thought that we were having an interesting conversation. I thought it was interesting. I'm just saying that. Now that we've gone through it for the last 45 minutes, we've asked some really basic logistical questions that don't seem to have answers. And I think those questions need answers before anyone can buy into the theory that these souls exist. I mean, there were so many things we could have talked about. We barely just scratched the surface before we start finding things that don't make sense. This is just like if you go to court and you tell a story in court, and then it turns out there's a bunch of problems in your alibi. It's right for the opposing counsel to be like, hey, listen, you have an alibi, but here's some fucking problems in this alibi, and here are the problems, right? So listen, it's fine that you say that sometimes you don't have answers for things. There's nothing wrong with not knowing something, but you have to understand from our perspective, if we're asking basic logistical questions and there's no good answer for it, what that means is we don't have a really good reason to buy into the same thing you've bought into.
You have been starting at the most difficult part. In my
we start at the easy part.
No, it's not the easy part. It's the most difficult part.
You can't answer the easy part right now. Like the easy part for you would be proving that there is a soul. That's where you started. And you can't answer that. Like all of it is difficult.
I've already answered it several times.
You've not proven that there is a soul. If you did, we wouldn't reject that. If you no, listen, you gave your perspective, right? You talked about your research, but you've not proven to me or Justin that there is a soul. You've not done that. If you did, we wouldn't be rejecting it. Like, we're pretty logical people. If you had evidence, we are not going to just reject the evidence and make up our own shit.
Like we didn't want to be atheists. This is just where the data led us. Like, if there was an afterlife, I'd love to believe that, like, I get to go live somewhere after I die. All I'm saying is Thinker and I want the actual evidence before we believe in it. The same reason, if I told you that the Easter bunny behind me on the shelf comes to life every April, you would need the evidence to prove that out.
Yeah. You already rejected all my evidence.
You didn't provide evidence.
I didn't see any.
I gave you 4 categories of anomalous experiences related to death. All 4 categories support the idea that humans survive physical death.
It does not. Like you don't know how the souls talk to mediums because you don't know how they're storing memory. You don't you literally said that with NDEs, they if they go through the wormhole, they see something different and their brain comes back up and make up a story. And
I
you
said the
have
brain
not.
tries. What I said was that the brain tries to make sense of the experience, but has to use terminology that's culturally defined because there are no words in the human language, any human language, to describe what they see precisely and exactly. So they have to use culturally intelligible language to describe something that cannot be put into words. It's called
So did they
ineffability.
experience that or not?
Yes, they did.
So she experienced Biggie Smalls in a blender.
She
Or did
saw
her
something
brain so the
that's how she
something that she
interpreted.
saw, but the something that she saw was not Biggie Smalls in a blender.
No,
It was a notoriously big blunder. Double
it would have to
pun.
be a gigantic blender. Yes,
But she saw something other than that, and her brain told her it was Biggie Smalls in the blender.
that's what it looked like to her brain once she got back in her body. Yes.
But it wasn't that. It was something else.
No.
Right. So
Yes.
like exactly, she doesn't know what she saw because her brain made up a different story. Like what's you were not able to answer the question regarding how is that different from a dream.
I tried, but you interrupted me.
No, I didn't. And I'm not gonna let you keep lying on us like that. No, we didn't.
Yeah,
I'm not
gaslighting's
lying.
crazy.
Yes, you are. We were
I
very
suppose this
nice to
had to
you.
go this
We were
way.
very nice to you. And you're blaming us for you not being able to prove your point here.
No,
Right.
I'm blaming you for not
Hey,
letting me finish my sentences.
That didn't happen either.
Huh.
so I mean, it's possible that I've
Okay.
interrupted you, and that's fine because I'm the asshole in this pairing. But that being said, listen, we've had you on for 50 minutes. I think it's an interesting conversation, but we don't want to drag the conversation out forever and bore the audience. We do have somebody else in the queue waiting. So
I had no
maybe think
intention of
about.
being on here forever.
I believe you, but what I'm saying is maybe think about some of the questions we've asked you, do some research on them, and we'd love to hear when you come back the next time what the answers are, because these are actually like really important answers we need to get on board with this viewpoint.
Well, I would refer you to my published work, but I don't think you'd pursue it.
No.
Yeah. So much for peer-reviewed journal articles. Those don't count.
So much for it.
So what does count in your world?
Not your articles.
Wow. Anybody else's articles?
Depends. I like the actual research articles, like when people have actually done controlled studies, but I don't think that people's anecdotal evidences are all that valuable. So
there we go. Been waiting all day for the anecdotal word to come up.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wrote a brief paper on that topic.
I'm sure it was delightful, and I'm sure everybody in the community loves it. But
it was just
I haven't read it, so it's kind of irrelevant. I'm sure it was. So that being said, listen, we're 53 minutes in. Appreciate you calling, but seriously, next time we're up, call back with the answers of the questions, because that's our first roadblock. We get past that roadblock, we can have a more substantial conversation on our hands.
You didn't hear a single thing I said. Thank you so much.
Unfortunately,
Goodbye.
we did. Yeah.